Hi, so this is very informal and sort of last minute. I'm just sat here in front of my bookcase, the light's coming in. It's just too many windows to try and not sit in the sun. So I hope you can forgive all of that, but I really just felt like I wanted to talk about this article that I read back in January. So it's been quite a while, but it really made an impact on me and I kept it in my journal. And I woke up from a dream about it sort of this morning, and I really just feel like I would like to talk to you about what is in this article and why it means something to me and how I think it just is a great sort of lesson for everyone. So the article is an interview with the author Paul Verhaeghe. He's a Dutch author, but his book has also been translated into English and is called On Being Normal and Other Disorders, and it's sort of all about what is normal and how normal shifts in our society over hundreds of years, and this idea that being normal means that there's a set normal and it has a list of criteria, and obviously anyone who falls outside of that is already not normal. I think it's really interesting because the article starts with him telling like an old sort of joke where like one fish swims past two other fish and goes like, how are you enjoying the water? And the two fish look at each other and go, what is water? And it's kind of this idea that when you're in something, it's really hard to see and to understand that concept. Another way in which we see this is with language, for example. So I had an English friend come and stay with me back in March, and we were walking through Amsterdam and I was giving a little bit of a tour, and I said, and we were going to the palace, and I said, our royal family is called of Orange. And he said, that's so funny, do they have an orange as a symbol of their sort of kingdom? you know what I mean. And I said, no, obviously not. And then I went, okay, well, orange the colour in English is orange the fruit. And then I said to my friend, you know why that thought seems so ridiculous to me is because in Dutch, the word for the colour orange is not the same word for an orange, the fruit that you eat. So even just that idea, I was like, no, of course. They wouldn't have een sinaasappel, an orange in Dutch, on their flag, because orange, oranje, the colour, they're not the same. But you see how when you are in a particular type of system that can be so deeply rooted that you don't even see or think about things, and it's hard to imagine that it's different in other sort of cultures, contexts, societies. And that isn't to say that that's impossible or to say that my friend is ignorant, because I don't mean that at all. And I think when we sit down and think about it, we can usually try and uncover some things, even though it might be hard to imagine really what it would be like otherwise. And I personally really enjoy thinking about these things because it's not just going through your life sort of an autopilot and assuming that everything you hear is true. I studied philosophy, so just thinking about the stuff that we take just to be like the basic level of truth, to look at that and go, actually, is this true? It's just fascinating to me. So his argument is that our society or culture sets sort of our internal compass of what is normal. It sort of decides these deep-seated values about what is normal and how you fit in. So he says that in our current society, our identity is very much tied up in perfection and societal success, and when we don't meet those and we don't succeed outwardly or in any way, however you want to see that, we are a loser, and worse for it. He says not only are you not succeeding, it's also your fault, because it's all about personal responsibility. There's been an amazing shift, he said, towards that, where now we have so much autonomy of our lives. We get to decide. Our life isn't already set out for us. When you were a peasant way back when, you're always going to be a peasant. You just were never going to be the landlord. That just wasn't going to happen. So your set life path was kind of there for you, and no one looked at you and went like, why didn't you become landlord? Maybe you just didn't try hard enough. Whereas now, everyone who's a peasant, the rest of society kind of looks at and thinks, okay, well, why aren't you a landlord? that's your fault. You could have become that landlord, you could have done better, you could have earned more, you could have been more successful, but maybe you just didn't work hard enough, or you're not smart enough, or you're not this enough, or not ambitious enough. Or it's really all about personal responsibility in that. And so when you don't succeed, or you don't become like the perfection and the extreme success, then it's your fault. And obviously the problem with this is that it's not fantastic that we have these opportunities to develop ourselves and become better, and everyone can go to university and can do these things. And you know, there's obviously still a lot of privilege in the world, but sort of largely speaking, in terms of history, there's a lot more of it now than there ever used to be. And those things are fantastic, but the problem with that is that it puts you into immediate competition with other people around you, because we can't all be extraordinary. He actually likens it to like the IQ scale, and I'm not sure whether I really believe in IQ tests and what to make of them or societally, but I think it demonstrates it quite nicely. He said in the article, like, where are the people with the IQ between a 19 and 110? Because if you look at an IQ curve, it should go like that, and that middle bit with like 90% of the people should be between IQ 90 and 110, and only 5% should be above or below. That's kind of what they think society looks like. And he says the interesting thing that is happening now with this culture very much focused on self-actualization, and you can make it happen, you just have to work hard enough for it, is that they try and push everyone into that last 5%. And that's not possible, because the more people you put into that 5%, there's going to be another 5% at the top of that. So you are always constantly in competition with the people around you. And he said that that constant competition actually makes you feel quite isolated. It makes you feel like you're on your own. It brings a lot of shame, and he contributes that to the increase in mental health issues. And this personally, when reading this, hit home so much to me, because I do spend my time thinking about, oh, well, maybe I should start my own business, or be really achieving, or have this extraordinary job, or, you know, have this job that I love. And all those things are really fantastic. But what is wrong with the person who just does like a fine job, who, you know, lots of jobs in our world that are actually really contributing to society, for example, like teachers, but they don't earn a lot and it's not glamorized, and therefore those jobs have become less and less desirable. There's a lot of stress on there, etc., and they're not respected because they don't have this outward picture of success, etc. So less people want to do it, but they're really meaningful jobs in society, and there's lots of other ones like that. What is wrong with the person who just does that job and maybe doesn't have a massive dream or excels completely at a specific skill, but who does just fine, who does just an alright job, and who likes their job fine? You know, it's not their dream job, but, you know, they quite like their job, and, you know, they quite like their life. They don't live in an extreme house or mansion, but they're happy. What's wrong with the person who just goes on holiday in the country that they live in every single year? No, we need to like fly somewhere and like experience this greatness and then take lots of photos of it so that we can put it on the internet or show friends or have these amazing memories, because, you know, just the memories that we have in the little things every single day isn't enough. And, you know, you see so much of, like, for example, imposter syndrome. That I've personally had this when I started my job, constantly feeling like someone was going to figure out that I wasn't as good as I was. And I think it's sad because it takes the contentment out of life. It's a really fine balance when I've been thinking about this, because you don't want to be so content that you're complacent. But I guess there's a reason why those words are two different words. Being content doesn't necessarily make you stop doing your best or trying for more or dreaming or doing other things. It just means that you're also just happy with where you are. You're happy being that 90% of the population that isn't extraordinarily smart, extraordinarily pretty, travels the world all the time, has lots of followers on Instagram, you know, earns a lot of money, has written that amazing book. All these different types of things, you know, it's just okay being that 90% of the population that does just fine, is happy, and are really good people, but probably don't get the credit for being that good that they are. And I catch myself feeling like I should be that 5%, and I should do more, and I should work harder, and what I do should be more extraordinary, and almost indeed like identifying my identity and my worth with that. And I don't want to live that way. I want to just be content with just being plain ordinary. It's fantastic being extraordinary, I'm sure. Being ordinary is pretty good too, because we make our life unnecessarily complicated and alienate ourselves unnecessarily from other people. I have friends that I know that feel that they haven't done enough with their lives, or haven't achieved enough with their lives, and feel that they should do more. And why? Just because we all want to be that 5%? Because society has now told us that that 5% is normal, and if you're not that 5% of the population that does extraordinary at the top, then you are not normal. Just why? That just causes so much heartache. So I'm trying to practice just being content more. Not being complacent, but being content. Catching myself thinking when I want to be that 5%, when I'm thinking, is this pretty enough? My house pretty enough to put on Instagram? Which is funny, considering I've just filmed like a house tour and I'm really not happy with it, but that's a very different conversation. But do you catch yourself thinking those too? It feels embarrassing saying this, but do you catch yourself thinking thoughts like, you know, is my job successful enough? Actually, like, maybe I quite enjoy my job, but maybe I should be trying to do something bigger or grander or earning more, and just really thinking about how things look and how you can... It's self-actualization, isn't it? You hear it a lot, like being the best version of yourself, and it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure because, yes, of course, it brings a lot of freedom to know that you are completely responsible for your own life and you can make anything happen. It's also a lot of responsibility because if it doesn't happen, you are the only one to blame. And in the article, to come back to that, Paul Verhaeghe, he says that that is actually why he thinks so many people embrace mental health diagnoses, because it's something that they can pin their failure to succeed onto and say, okay, so this is why I'm not at that 5% yet. But we can't, I'm just repeating myself now, we can't all be the 5%. Like I said, this video is going to be kind of a little bit all over the place, and maybe I'll try and do this again at a later date and try and sum it up a little bit better. But I didn't have a lot of time, but with waking up with this today and really thinking about this, and especially as well now in being in quarantine, and you know, you see all these things around now. I see it on Instagram with people saying like, you don't need to use this time to write like the next best novel. But there is that kind of idea, isn't there, that you should do something extraordinary with this time and use this time to self-actualize even further and become even greater and achieve even more. And maybe you don't, you know, and it just takes so much contentment out of little things of, yeah. So I'm practicing that, trying to think about that a lot more. And if you're still here throughout all of that rambling, I highly invite you to maybe think about that a little bit more as well, and think about where you are letting this new normalcy in our society completely integrate into the center of your being, and how much you equate your identity with your successes, and how much you blame yourself for not getting that amazing job, or not, you fill in the blanks. Thank you for watching, and I wish you a beautiful rest of your week.